Good morning. Oh, it is a beautiful day out. Beautiful. And I'm moving slow. How are you doing? Okay. How are you? What's your morning like? Look at what? What have you been up to? What have you been thinking? What have you been feeling? Think about what you've been thinking about. Has it been good for you? Has it been healthy? Has it been helpful? Has your mathed? Does it make sense? Or have you been riling yourself up? Have you been ruminating, thinking the same things over and over and over again? I've been talking to a sweetheart in the program, and I can tell you that sometimes we feel so remorseful for our insecurities or temper tantrums or some of our behaviors we had back when we were using, that we throw out the baby with the bathwater. Some of you are too young to know what that even means. But if you kind of put it together in your head, it's like, I want to get rid of this dirty water, this old behavior, this misalignment. Throw that out. But remember, there's some good stuff in there, right? There's some good stuff in there. A soul. So living in shame is kind of like doing that. It's like, wait a minute, you don't have to live in shame if you're trying to clean up the water. You kind of clean up that mess. You got a good baby in there. That's what I say. That's what I say. So, here we are, trying to make sense of things. And in early recovery, one of the things that some of us kind of forget is that one of the things that probably was not broken, people say, I can't believe I do this mistake over and over and over again. But we know that normally someone gave us some good intel and we decided not to listen. We know that something in our gut told us this was a bad boy or this was not the right way to do it. And we didn't listen. I can tell you, sometimes our emotions override everything and we don't recognize those flags. I made a bad investment decision based on my emotions. And I had no way, I had a total blackout on what the next right thing to do was. Even though afterwards I remember hearing some advice that made sense. Later, it did not make sense in the moment. So I'm not saying we all know better, because sometimes we don't. Sometimes we don't. But in sobriety or in recovery of whatever, I know I'm working on that. Some kind of old lady skinned something and I've been experimenting on it. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Anyway, so now it's about, let's look at the bathwater. Let's slow down. One of the things we slow out is our sense of intuition, that sense of self, sense of knowing. We may not know ourselves all that well, but we have a knowing that something isn't quite right. Oh, my eyebrows are a mess. I've never had good eyebrows, you know? The good ones that are kind of thick and positioned in a nice way. Mine have always been, they grow fast, really long. So I'm always having to trim them. Why And they've always been very thin and crazy, especially when they start going white. Like, what is that? Crazy hair going all up, shooting that way. Okay, so my point is that sometimes our math starts working without us realizing our math is working. But if we slow down, we'll start hearing it. That's why prayer and meditation work so well for many of us. But I know why I'm praying, and I know why I'm meditating. I pray to basically lay out the math. Who's involved? What's going on? Help me find peace about it. Help bless others with your insight. Let this situation, it's a request, sometimes a demand, to help lead others to you, to help give them comfort. But while I'm praying, that's what I'm doing, is laying out the math. People, places, and things of what's going on, and I'm praying about those things. In a detective sort of way, I'm looking it at. I'm looking at it with a little bit of math in mind. Then when I meditate to me is slowing down, not thinking about a solution, not giving options. It's being quiet so that I can hear and sometimes feel. Sometimes I'll get the information in my mind and my heart at the same time, where I'm like, oh, that's the answer. And there's only usually a couple different answers you can get to any math equation. It's just which one is the most right for you, right? There's logical math. It's like, okay, 2 + 2 is 4. Stop it. 1 + 1 + 1 is 3. What are you going to do with that number? You know, like when a man won't leave his wife. It's like, duh. Okay, so the man's acting like he's leaving his wife, but there's a lot of other math. What are people thinking in your professional community, in your personal community, in your family community? How are you feeling about yourself while you're waiting for all the divorce to happen? And don't forget about all the chaos that always falls out with a divorce. Don't fall for the fact that, oh, we're going to do this clean and simple and we're all going to be nice. Don't fall for that. That math don't math. That math does not math. That's just an example of how when you pray, you look at all this situation and then you look at, okay, what are your sacrifices for making this decision or this decision? What's the trade-off if you do this position or this position? How are you going to feel about yourself in a couple years when things do or don't work out with this decision or that decision? See, that's all in prayer. That's all in putting the math out there. Then when you quieten down and listen, take that information to your therapist or your best friend, or sleep on it and pray about it again, because we usually know the right answer. I was sharing earlier, excuse me, about how there are some things that we've done when we were younger, less experience. Look at that hair way up there. What the heck? Yeah. Oh, there's a fly in the house too. That ain't right. You okay? Get it, Frankie. That woke him up. He heard it too. I don't know where it came from, but it's making him crazy. Get it, Frankie. Where is it? Where'd it go? So anyway, I just think it's very interesting that sometimes we just really do not catch ourselves in the moment enough. We get all worked up. Oh, that ain't working. I don't know why I still have this lipstick. It was good enough when I got it, and it just... Oh, okay, it's close enough. That's why I kept it. Anyway, that's really all I wanted to throw out there, is that are we doing the things we need to do to take care of ourselves with utilizing our brain, our math brain? I know that we can be told stories, and I like using that story about, having an affair with a married man, because a lot of women can relate to it, whether they followed through on it or they didn't. They can relate to the conundrum, because if they can't relate to it at all, which is very seldom, there are very few women who can't relate to either being someone who's going to have an affair, considering an affair, and not doing it, or someone who's had an affair done on them. We can almost all relate to that. So, it also comes down with things when you watch other people and you think, what is going on? I can't quite figure it out. And then they tell you a story, and you're still finding yourself going, huh? Huh? When you start finding yourself doing that little head tilt, that's the baby that's in the bathwater. Think about that. But I want to believe. Okay. You can believe. You can also recognize that it's okay to be somebody's welcome mat, their bank account, their loan officer, their automobile Uber. You can continue supplying someone with a home, money, safety while they continue doing their drugs and alcohol, while they continue lying, while they continue manipulating, while they continue putting other people's at lives when they go out there and drive because they've stolen your car for the third time. You can do all that. That's up to you. But here's the bathwater part. When you have an affair, when you are supporting someone in supporting their behaviors, at some point that makes you an assistant to the crime, kind of. What is that called? You know what it's called. Aiding and abetting. There's another word that has to do with being an accomplice. That's it. in the whole drama. That's hard. That's a horrible awakening to have. I don't like it. That's for sure. I know that there are a lot of us who have had the experience of behaving in a way that, looking back, we would never do. Not in the same way, that's for sure. Oh my God. I have very few regrets, but I have a few, right? And I'm not ashamed anymore, but I can tell you, if I had a chance to do it a different way, I would have. Or not done it at all. I sure know that the temper tantrum I had when the market went down and I made my financial decision with that didn't go well. I certainly would have handled that different. And a crush I had on somebody, I would have handled that different. Holy cow. Tasty morsel. There are some friendships that I would have handled differently. Either not participated in them or been a better friendship partner. Sometimes we just don't know what we don't know. So even today, when we kind of take a look at some of the decisions that we get to make, for instance, when I make big purchases, that can be a slippery place sometimes where I'm not thinking about what I'm thinking about. I do know now, today, that, and that's why I'm pretty successful at it, is that when I make purchases, I make sure of what the return policy is. That's one of my slippery spots. Sometimes I like a little shopping therapy. I have been practicing for years, say what I mean what I say, and don't say it mean. So I haven't had to apologize for a whole lot of things. Is there some heartache with going through that process with somebody, and then the consequences might be that you're not friends anymore? Yeah, loss is hard, especially when you've loved someone a long, long time. I grew up around addiction, generational alcoholism. And then Mama's Little Helper came out, and everybody started taking Valium. Whew, that was tasty. Man, was it addictive. What a jackpot for those pharmaceutical companies. Damn. Well, and that's when only rich people went to therapy. There wasn't insurance for therapy back then. Therapy wasn't so great back then either. There weren't very many ethical standards with therapy back then. That's another reason, probably. I don't know. Even today, there's some therapists out there you'll find out that don't have the best ethical standards. I do my best to try to be the professional that I would want someone to be with me. And then there are some times when I understand that the professionalism that I had when I was growing up, I wish it would have been a little different. When I quit therapy with a therapist, at one point, we were able to become friends. And if I needed therapy after that, I would have found a different therapist. And we were friends until I moved away out of town. That's been the saddest thing for me, especially when I'm working with a young woman and she's better, and then we stop therapy. It's just like, oh my God, I wish I could keep in touch. But then there's that long-term, that power's better than me, have realized is that sometimes that client comes back because they feel safe with me. And that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. So I don't know. That's what I wanted to vent about, is slow down, look at the math. If it's not mathing from like your point of view of what you're going through, what you're putting on the table for yourself to do the math on, or if someone's trying to tell you their math, and you keep going, what? Make sure you kind of clear that up. It's like, let's dig a little deeper. That's why I think being a private investigator is so cool. Because there is so much that people just don't ask follow-up questions. You got to get curious. If the math doesn't seem to math for you, get curious. Ask more questions. Yeah. And then if somebody has trouble answering those questions, I don't know. Should I get a haircut? I love having long hair. I don't know why I even asked if you think I should get a haircut, because I'm not going to. I got that new thing that can help make it a ponytail. I love that. I think I'm finally really, I went through a couple years where I just didn't know what I looked like. I didn't know how I was coming across. And I think through doing these videos, I've kind of gotten to know myself as my dyslexia keeps me, maybe a little ADHD, keeps me from talking in a straight line. There are some people who do that. They do the zigzag when they talk, but I'm right there with them. I'm like, oh, I see how they're putting their dots and T's together. And other people go, that was hard to hear. And there are some people who talk and I'm just like, huh? I'm not following. So I get it if you can't follow me. I see that I do that. And I'm also starting to see my own sense of style. I am going through my closet again, and I'm finding out that some of those shoes I've been saving for that special event, I'm not going to wear those shoes. Even if my spouse disappeared off the planet and those high heels were just the thing to wear for my next man, not that there ever will be, but I might date. I don't think my body could handle heels that tall anymore. I think it would take me 3 days to recuperate from wearing them for a couple hours on a hot date. And I don't think anyone my age is going to want me hanging on their arm like they liked me hanging on their arm when I was in my 20s and 30s and maybe even 40s, right? They're like, yeah, hang on my arm. At this age, you don't want some 64-year-old woman hanging on your arm because their heels are too tall. Oh my gosh. So I'm finding my style, and I'm kind of going back to the hippie boho thing. I didn't realize I was. I just started leaning into who I am, and I feel a lot better about that. Look, I even put my second hole wasn't completely closed, so I put those in there. Isn't that something? Getting your ears pierced was a big deal when I was little. Now it's like nothing. People have all kinds. I thought about doing that one time, just like that is too big of a statement for me, just like tattoos. So, see, and that's something else too. That maths. When you start looking at who I am, how I present myself, how I talk, how I walk, how I live my life, it makes sense for me to have certain things in my closet than other things. There are some things in my closet that you go in there and you think, oh, she must dress like that. You would never expect me. Oops, look at that. Slipping. And that's also true as I'm getting to know someone else. When they present a certain way, but I can kind of sense something else is going on and the two don't mix, it's kind of like, interesting. Thanks for letting me vent. Have a good day, and try to get to know yourself in a way that you understand the difference between baby and bathwater. Let me know what you think. Mwah. Bye for now.